Hello everybody, how are you going? Welcome to what does a typical Canadian house look like? Now it does also say new neighborhood, and of course it is going to vary town by town and province by province and even the age of the building, but at the same time I feel like a lot of the North American homes that I've seen do look fairly similar, like large houses with garages. That's what I'm picturing, and I feel like that's what a lot of the world pictures.
I just want to show you one of the neighborhoods that we have in Aurora area. It's between Aurora and Richmond Hill.
Okay. Oh, it's so weird. It's so Richmond Hill. Okay, where is this exactly? Oh, wow. Whoa. Okay, first of all, I need to know how far away from Toronto is that really? Does it say... it doesn't say population growth since the 1990s. That doesn't look that far. Oh, okay, it's actually 30 kilometers. That just puts it into perspective. And I guess I just then need to know what is 30 kilometers as the crow flies in a Sydney term as we come from the CBD out to here. Okay, so it's out like at Mount Druitt. That's fair enough then. Even just looking at this map, I can see that it does start to kind of get more sparsely populated, or at least the big main roads definitely thin out. Out near Loretto, there's just nothing, and it's kind of in between those two. But man, does it look, I mean, I guess it's a grey sky day, but it looks so bleak and somehow really British at the same time. I mean, I guess I didn't see too many driveways. I feel like when they were driving through, none of these houses here have them. None of that has it. These big archways, I guess, is that for snow coverings and things like that? Is that why it's there? I mean, the roofs make sense. 2 stories, big homes, big like monolithic, I don't know what you'd call it besides industrial revolution looking warehouses. That's what it looks like, but barely any trees. I guess it's deciduous trees, but it just looks so bleak, and no power lines, because it must be a really new suburb, or is that more of a normal thing? I mean, there's power lines in the back line, but they're more transmission lines in terms of, I'm sure they're like 40 or 60 kilovolt compared to just 110. I was about to say 240, but they're going to be much bigger because there is nothing along the actual street, no telegraph poles. Interesting. It just looks so weirdly different and North American, but also British. Oh, it's strange.
As you can see, houses are pretty small, but they are detached, which is good, better than semi-detached. And this is pretty new area, and some of them they have a very nice look, but they have separate garages on that side. I'll show you in a second. And I want to show you over this house is overlooking beautiful area. It's gray now, but it's going to be green pretty soon, even though we have May. But still we don't have green trees yet. So on this side, as you can see, sizes of the houses pretty good, pretty decent size actually, and they have little porches, and these porches usually the door leads to the kitchen, and people can put some barbecues, as you can see on this side, and they can put few chairs there, so you can make some barbecue. You can even put a table and umbrella. So it's...
Wow. I'm just trying to take it all in, and of course the price has now come up as well, saying they're 900,000 to 1.2, which is close enough to AUD to where the price is comparable, but they are so just solid. Like, they're just square cornered, absolutely locked down. I'm just presuming that they're not open plan. I mean, it's hard to tell from my eyes just going, they're just such a brick. I mean, she did say that, okay, I'm glad that they're not semi-detached and they are freestanding. They're pretty close. They might as almost well just be terraces, but they're also apparently little. And I don't know, I mean, I guess out in the suburbs that might be little, but the fact that they're 2 stories and like that, I don't know about little. That's pretty darn big to me. I mean, as I was saying, it was that 30k's out. So if I just choose any one of these streets, it hopefully won't be grey skies. Yes, it's not grey skies. Of course it's not. But look at the difference. This is what I'm imagining. 30k's out of the CBD. This is what we're looking at. This is just literally a random street. I can pick any other random street around here and it'll look pretty darn similar. Okay, that's a school. But you get the point. That, compared to this, it's very different. They are not small homes. They are probably double brick, fully insulated, with minimal deck space. It looks like like a large proportion of the home is also on the land, or the large proportion of the land is just the home with small backyards that have nothing. I mean, I guess you do have that area just over here, so at least there's some kind of greenery and outlook and park space, or whatever you want to be calling it, and whatever it actually is. But man, it's just so different, you know. For all this time that I've been kind of learning about Canada, so often Canada and Australia are quite similar, but they're also siblings and also distant step cousins, whatever you want to be calling it as well, because we're both ex-British colonies and we behave very similar and we have all of that. But just the adaptations to suit the climate and how that entire thing messes with people's psychology and their buildings and everything like that is crazy. These tiny freestanding porches is what they call it. No, the porch was at the front. Little decks out the back that are connected to the kitchen. And that's not strange to have the deck connected to the kitchen, but they're so small. And the fact that the kitchen, I mean, I guess they have basements where Australia doesn't really have basements. As you can see here, this is just a very common suburban home. Single story, front door, maybe, I mean, this one might be brick, but there's going to be plenty of just weatherboard places. And if you were to have a weatherboard place in Canada, you'd be dead. In winter, you'd just be dead. You'd be frozen to the core, because in Sydney, you freeze to the core, and in summer you cook in them, but that's an entirely different story. But meanwhile, look at them. There's no basements, there's no second story, there's no massive pitched roof because you don't need it for the snow and everything like that. It's just standard. Yes, you have a couple of brick buildings, but there's going to be a lot of weatherboard, and unless it's new, maybe it has some brick veneer, otherwise timber construction, Besser block, that kind of thing. But nothing looks like this, and I wish I could show some kind of backyards, but there just was none. I don't think you would ever be able to see someone's backyard. I mean, I guess if I just come down to here, we can see that it's a corner block like the other ones kind of are, and so here we go. Brick building, blonde brick, built whenever, but aircon, of course, garage out here, no fence, none of that, just a little front yard. And then we can see, if we kind of peer around and be a little bit intrusive, but this is the backyard, but there's no, you know, there's no floating basement, there's nothing. It just is what it is. What you see is what you get. There's not these massive building that just goes sky high. And look, telegraph poles. And yes, like I said, it is going to be varying province by province and state by state, and new build, old build, terraces, underground power lines, everything. But that's basically the Sydney street right there. Telegraph poles and all the power lines draped in between, where I feel like a lot of what I've seen with North American suburbs is they are very new, so they do run them underground. And so if you do try and find I don't know, where would I find a new one? Down this way, you might be able to find some new builds. Oh, it'd be hard to find them right here and here, but here we go. Let's see, do these new buildings, I don't think they have telegraph poles. No. See, this is more brand new, so maybe this is more so what I should be comparing, as this is probably a more fair comparison, age of the buildings and all of that. And to be fair, they don't look too dissimilar. But big garages, no front fences, side, let's see, around the side, no telegraph poles, and brick, maybe veneer, probably real to some degree, single brick, certainly no basements in any of these. At most you might get a semi-underground garage, like a half story, but realistically that is a big house, let alone when you just add an entire another story onto it and all of those kind of things, and all the decorative features that it was quite impressive with this. You know, you've got all the brickwork, and I just went to use it like Google Maps and just pan it around, but all the facades and balconies and snow coverings, you're not getting any of that.
And also, as you can see, they have walkouts to backyard. So usually this part leads, the bottom door leads to the basement, and windows not pretty big, but still it's good size, and you can see that it will be enough light there. So that's pretty much how they look on that side. And again, I just want to show you.
Look at that. They're just like cookie cutter.
How it looks on that side.
Oh my goodness. The main thing that I'm also taking away with this is quite tall windows, not big windows. I mean, not necessarily big windows. That's quite a large window, and I feel like the perspective and the scale of everything is getting a little bit skewed because of the size of the building that I'm looking at. But just these tall windows, I mean, the basement windows are generally quite small, I guess, and you have these little alcovey windows over here, but everything seemed quite tall. Even coming back to these guys, look, like it's a lot of tall, I guess just dual opening, maybe sliding windows, and I wonder why that is. Is it better for a thermal reason? Also, what is this kind of like chimney bit here that doesn't go to the roof? That's confusing to me, but they're just so different. It's so weirdly different. And yes, I think I have to be putting my brain into more of the new Sydney suburbs in comparison to what I was looking at before when I just chose Mount Druitt, because that's not, I guess, what this is. And it would be interesting to compare an older suburb in Toronto or anywhere in Canada to the new suburb, and then I can compare that directly to somewhere like Mount Druitt or anywhere out west if it's going to be 30 k's out. But I just want to try and see, what do the windows kind of look like? I mean, we just have these generic single pane. That's going to be a big difference. Some people might have double pane glass laminated or anything like that, but honestly I would be very surprised if any of these places have double glazing. Most of the time everyone's just going to be having single glazing, and that just is what it is. It's kind of more the standard. If people want to be paying for upgrades to be getting that, they can, of course. It's not like it's not a thing. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone getting triple glazing in Australia, where overseas in North America and I'm sure in Europe, I know it's a much bigger thing as well. But really, like, you see these new suburbs, and I would love to know, what is the process in Canada with the whole builder process? As a lot of these places, I mean, this one less so. This seems like more people have actually chosen their own designs, but sometimes, I won't be able to find it, but sometimes you just see these places that are just perfect cookie cutters of each other. They're just the same house, just repeated over and over again. I mean, to some extent, perhaps, but really, it's like some of them just take it to another level. And I'm wondering, do people design their own house? Do they buy the land? How old are these homes? All of those things come into it. So
this is corner house. Some people, they don't like corner houses because they have access from two sides of the street. I personally like them, and sometimes they have even bigger backyard than regular houses. So see, on this side you can see how little space between houses, and this wall, as you can see, have like, they don't have any windows on that side and on the
good that they don't have any windows. I mean, it does look a little bit dark alley. I don't know what else you'd call it, but it's good that they don't have any windows. There is no need for people to be staring at one another, just Toy Story style or anything like that, New York City, where you're just staring into someone's yard, where I feel like, I mean, I guess I could look, but I feel like people generally don't think that much when building in Australia. They just go, my house, window, and then someone else builds next to them and they go window, and then all of a sudden you just have two windows looking straight into one another where the blinds are always shut, and you just have a massive single pane of glass that just leaches heat in and leaches cold out, or whichever way you want to be saying it. The thing that does surprise me, though, that no one around here similarly has fences or any kind of boundary indicator, which is very rare in Australia. I feel like everyone's like, no, this is what it is, fenced up, colorbond fence, maybe some timber paneling fences, whatever it may be. Well, that's just a gravel path. So I wonder, is that common property? Is it access to another place? Could you put massive aircon units in there? Because that's the perfect wall for it. You just want to be slapping a big old aircon unit and running it up into whatever room you can get to, or running it up into the ceiling cavity and then going down there through the attic, whatever it is. That's the perfect wall for it. No windows, no sound coming through there, and no one else just to annoy.
Here you see more space between houses, and even it's a perfect angle. As you can see, the little garage at the back of the house.
Wait, so they drive down the grass?
It has separate entrance, and they have separate street on other side, so you can just drive on that street and park your car in the garage.
Wait, so it's a dual access property. And see, that's the thing. I would love to, I guess should just go back and do a side-by-side on Google Maps, but just so much of North America is just the perfect grid, and I think Melbourne is a little bit more perfect grid than Sydney. Sydney just does whatever the hell it wants. Cul-de-sacs, curved roads, up and down hills, you name it, we've got it in terms of trying to make a grid. I mean, there's city planning to the extreme where grids aren't good, and then there's city planning in residential neighborhoods where grids can be good. But either way, just the way that every street is pretty straight, if not straight, kind of a slight curve to it, but realistically, you can just have these places that don't have any random shapes. You have these big blocks of houses because everyone knows the shape and the boundary and everything like that. They're just, what is it, 10,000 foot parcels of land? I don't know. And it's not like you got a 40-meter thing here and a 2-meter section there and you're just trying to make this house fit. No, it just works. You just make this cookie cutter work. Because look, it's just straight. See, this is a lot more green. So where's all the trees? Maybe they're just too new. Says I didn't actually see any big old trunks. They were just kind of little tiny stems. But none of these places have garages. But do they then back on to another place? No, yeah, they do back onto another place. So it's not a given that you're going to have dual access, but it could be possible. I mean, with a little bit of snooping, I did just go back to the start of the video and see exactly what the name of the road was. And so now here we go. I have a 3-dimensional view and Google Maps of the entire place that she's talking about. At least we can see it's not always grey skies, and also that the trees are pretty little. So it must be a very, very new area, because you can see all of those places, and then all of a sudden, this is what we were looking at before, but you keep coming around and you've got almost Sydney looking places, or very more modern looking places. However, are these terraced? Yes, they are not individual freestanding homes. Eventually, maybe, yeah, there's a bit of a driveway. Oh, actually, does that go through to a... No, there's not a photo in between, but it looks like it goes through to more access down there. And that's where I guess you just keep capitalizing and keep going and going and going. I do want to know why a lot of places like the step up. That's interesting. Every single place has stairs up. Is that for snow? That's like a Canadian special right there. Why is every single one raised? I guess you're allowing less digging for the basement. That's what I can only presume, but this is what we're looking at before. This little access. Oh no, there's a fence there. Let's see. If we come all the way back down to the start. Come on, there we go. This is where we were. And people do put, oh, there's big, and it's probably a boiler to be fair, but you go straight through to the other side, don't you? Yes, because these are single access properties. And so how common is that? I mean, it's clearly common over here, and it wasn't where I was looking before, but please let me know, is it common to just have dual access, or is this just more a new suburb thing? To be fair, I did just see that this video came out 4 years ago, and so that puts it into perspective.
You even see this little signs on the next to the doors. It means that
yeah, cool.
they were new houses. They didn't have numbers, so they just assign numbers to them. So that's how they look.
Interesting.
See, they don't have much room between houses.
No, because the houses are so huge, but apparently they're not.
But on this street, I want to show you how garages look on that side. So you can... Actually, they are 2-car garages, very good size.
Wow.
So you can entrance from your backyard, but you can park your car from this street.
Right. Okay, so there's a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on that road. Fair enough. But the fact that the garage is separate, is that weird? I feel like that's different. That feels like it's a very tiny kind of area thing where you just have no room up the front for a tiny terrace. You only got maybe 4 or 5 meters across as is, and then you just don't have any room for a whole garage, so then you put it out the back. Well, these places could afford to be putting it out the front if they really wanted to. They could just go down into the basement. Maybe cars don't do that. Also, yeah, why don't garages go underneath? But my curiosity is just so piqued about everything here in terms of why does everyone agree that that is just the road that is for garages? You know, if that was Sydney, you'd have a 4-story place right there, dual access, I guess, what do you call it, duplex, facing both ways, garage underneath kind of thing, especially if it was a corner block. I mean, it's a suburbia, so maybe less so, but realistically, why does everyone go, that road's for garages only, and no one has their house facing that way? That would be what I mean, where everyone just kind of goes, I have my own block and I do what I want with it, instead of kind of just playing by the rules with everyone else.
So this is how it looks, regular neighborhood.
They're just so tall. Like, they look like 5-story homes. And I think that is because the roof pitch is also quite exaggerated in comparison because of the snow load and everything like that. But just the fact that they all are unrendered brick, basically. A couple of them have veneered brick, or whatever, veneered tile, the sandstone look, whatever you want to be calling it. But they are all exposed brick. Every single thing is just exposed brick, and I'm really surprised about that, as everyone just, like I said, almost plays by the rules. I mean, maybe they were all just built by the same developer, so people don't really have that entire thing, but it's not like they're the same color. Every single one is different. They each have their own little facade and balcony and porch and everything like that. The door color, I mean, I guess that's only painting, but all of that is different. And so How much design input do people have? How much is this just determined by the builder or the contractor or the owner of the lot originally before they actually sell them on to people? All of that. It's so the same but different. It's like it's like a multiverse version of Australia. It's weird. But here we go. Once again, I just wanted to choose a different area, one that we can see has multiple dates to it. 2016, there's a bit of cloud cover this day. But if we go back to 2019, nothing has really changed. And you can see these big houses on the corners, and yes, there are a couple of streets that have big houses, but then you look down here, and that is a lot of single-story homes and single-story places. There's a couple of big ones down there, but they don't have that overall monolithic height that the other ones do, like I said, because you don't have the elevation of the basement, which puts you up a meter, a couple of stairs, and then the pitch of the roof. I mean, I'll try and I guess put one over the other, but man, does it just feel so different. It's just so much bigger, these places. That versus this, I can't really get the same angle on that one, but man, look at them. They're just so industrial or non-Australian. Like, you'd see that architecture, or you'd never see that architecture in Australia ever, especially because, like I said, just every single one is unrendered brick, where virtually all of these are going to have some level of rendering to them. Look, fully white, brick veneer, or brick over there, more rendering and more brick, more rendering and more brick. Every single one has a degree of rendering to them, where not a single one of any of these has any rendering on it. So all of those questions come up, and I do just wonder why that is, because Australia and Canada can be, like I said, so similar in people and personnel and everything like that, being ex-British colonies, or no, still British colonies to some degree, but just the way that we approach infrastructure and design and everything like that is so different. And that's only because of our environment, and that's fair enough, but it's just interesting that it can be so close yet so far away.